The dispatcher's voice was calm, but on the other end of the line, panic spilled through. A man was rambling, frantic, disoriented, saying someone had been shot. He mentioned gloves, volatility, and rounds being fired. Officers arriving at the scene didn't know if they were about to walk into chaos or tragedy, but they braced themselves. That call marked the grim turning point in the life and death of Kendi Howard, a 48-year-old mother, daughter, and friend whose final moments were clouded in confusion and violence. What sounded at first like another desperate emergency call would unravel into a case filled with jealousy, manipulation, and ultimately murder.
911, what's the address? 911.
My wife.
What's the matter? Tell me where you're at.
She shot herself.
Okay, take a deep breath for me. Take a deep breath. Come on. I need you to help here. Okay?
Kendi wasn't just another name on a police report. She was a woman who had been planning a brand new future, a future ripped away in the most brutal way imaginable. And standing at the centre of it all was her husband, Dan Howard, a man with a badge in his past and a darkness he could never hide. Kendi Howard was ready to turn the page. After 27 years of marriage, she had made a decision many fear: divorce. But for her, it wasn't a heartbreak, it was a chance at freedom. Friends and family described her as bubbly, outgoing, and full of life. She loved the outdoors, adored her 2 children, and was finally dreaming about a life that belonged entirely to her. Her plans were concrete. She'd put in an offer on a house in Kamaya, Idaho, nearly 176 miles away from Athol, where she had lived with Dan. There, she rekindled a relationship with her high school sweetheart, Daniel Paro, and even resigned from the company she'd worked at for 20 years. Her goal? To open an antique store, a tangible symbol of a new chapter. But escaping Dan Howard was never going to be simple. A former Idaho state trooper with a reputation for jealousy and control, Dan didn't handle rejection well. Kendi had been careful, taking steps to break free, but every move she made seemed to tighten the tension between them. For Kendi, each day was a balancing act, pursuing her new life while navigating the shadow of the man who once promised to protect her, but now posed the gravest danger. By late January 2021, the stakes were high. Kendi's hope for independence collided with Dan's volatile tendencies, setting the stage for events that would spiral far beyond anyone's control. Just 4 days before her death, Kendi reached a breaking point. Early in the morning of January 29th, 2021, she made a distress call. Not to the police, but to her new boyfriend. She didn't speak directly. Instead, she left the line open, letting him hear the chaos unfolding in her home. In the background, there were thuds, muffled sounds of struggle, and her palpable panic. Her boyfriend later testified that Kendi was distraught and emotional, terrified for her life. She didn't know if Dan would hurt her. In a desperate bid for help, he called her parents, who immediately contacted 911 Central Dispatch. 2. The police arrived quickly and found Kendi anxious but relieved, having packed a bag to stay at her parents' house that night. She confided in her boyfriend later that morning. Dan had loomed over her in bed, dressed in black, gloves on, with a gun magazine lying on the floor. She feared he might kill her, or worse, take revenge on everyone she loved. Despite urgent warnings from her boyfriend and parents not to return home, Kendi insisted she had to check on her pets and keep an appointment at her eye doctor. By the time police would return to the Howard residence on February 2nd, the situation had escalated from fear to tragedy.
Wait with him.
Get gloves?
Send in medical.
Got that?
Yep. Central 20.
Do you have anything?
No, please, no.
Hi, guys.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
I honestly haven't seen it. I know what she's
No. Please don't tell me it's gonna go.
Hi, sir. Good, how are you?
Oh, please.
Do you need anything?
That first distress call had been a warning nobody could ignore, a signal that the tension in their marriage had reached a deadly climax. The scene at the Howard home was puzzling. When officers arrived on February 2nd, Dan Howard claimed that Kendi had shot herself in the bathtub. He wailed loudly, portraying himself as a devastated husband.
What's his name? Thank you. Dan?
Hey, Dan.
Hey, Dan.
Dan? Hey, Dan, I'm Deputy Wheeler. I'm sorry to inform you, but your wife is passed, sir.
No! God damn it!
Hey, Dan? Hey, Dan? Is there anyone that we can call for you? Anyone that
It's
can...
good toast. Oh my God.
Yet investigators noted something odd. There were no tears, no physical signs of grief, just the show of loud, exaggerated emotion. For a former law enforcement officer and Marine, it felt rehearsed. Dan's history only made him more suspicious. In 2013, after discovering Kendi had an affair with their neighbour, Matthew Wood, Dan had reacted violently, pointing a rifle at Matthew, firing a shotgun at his roof, stealing guns and mail, vandalising property, and sending threatening messages. The neighbour eventually fled the state just to escape him. Dan had a record of stalking, assault, and property destruction, yet Kendi had survived their marriage until now. The condition of Kendi's body made it clear she had fought desperately to survive. Her bruises, lacerations, and second-degree burn told a story of violence and struggle, a story that contradicted Dan Howard's claims of a simple suicide. Dan's own words and actions further fueled suspicion. He described Kendi as emotional and unstable, insisting the gun was part of their asset division. Yet his obsession with money and control was evident. People close to Kendi told investigators that Dan would obsess over her spending, sometimes over as little as $10. With joint assets of $2 million, the financial motive loomed large. Officers also noted his behaviour during confrontations. Loud wailing and theatrics aside, Dan's reactions to calls from family members and police felt calculated, almost performative. Meanwhile, forensic evidence told another story. The trajectory of the gunshot, lack of blood, and Kendi's injuries suggested she did not take her own life. Investigators slowly pieced together what had really happened in the Howard home. Evidence contradicted Dan's story at every turn. The downward trajectory of the bullet, minimal blood at the scene, and Kendi's multiple injuries all indicated she didn't shoot herself. Forensic analysis suggested the gun was placed in her mouth after she was already dead, not before. Further testimony revealed how Dan had allegedly restrained her using a chokehold technique, rendering her unconscious, and then moved her lifeless body to the bathtub. The scene was staged to look like a suicide, but the brutal signs of struggle, broken jaw, bruises, lacerations, and a burn, told a far darker story. The twist wasn't just in the method, it was in the revelation that Dan Howard had meticulously planned the cover-up, manipulating everyone around him to believe the worst tragedy had been self-inflicted. It took 2 years before Dan Howard was formally charged with Kendy's murder. In March 2024, the jury reached a verdict. Dan Howard was found guilty of second-degree murder and domestic battery. The life he had built, the persona of a former trooper and Marine, crumbled under the weight of evidence. Dan Howard was sentenced to life without parole for Kendy's murder, with an additional 10-year sentence for domestic battery.